everyone. How is everybody doing today? If you have any specific questions today in our webinar, please drop a comment in the comment section. We are always going to go through all of the questions and answer them at the very end of the webinar. So if you do have anything that you do want to know, if we have time for it, we will most definitely go through that at the very end. In the meantime, while we wait, I usually give around 5 minutes for people to still join from wherever they are and on all of the different streaming platforms that we are streaming to. Please go ahead and tell us where you are from, what the weather is like for you at the moment. The year is going by so incredibly fast. So it's lovely to just kind of, just talk about the weather a little bit and just settle for a couple of minutes and just chat about mundane things. So I myself, I'm from South Africa. We're having a heat wave currently. It is awful. I'm absolutely dying of heat at the moment. Um, it's ready. I'm ready for winter at the moment. I really, really am. I absolutely detest the summer, so the heat is not doing it for me. Oh, rainy. Oh, wow. You're so lucky. Absolutely love the rain. We have Florida. We have North Carolina, Philadelphia, New York City. Oh my gosh, that's absolutely amazing. Yeah, again, for new people that have joined, if you have any questions throughout the entire webinar, please go ahead and put it in the comment section. We will go through everything at the very end to to answer them. What During the webinar, of course, we will be answering questions that you might have. It might be in the slides that we have, but yeah, if we don't answer it inside of the webinar itself, we will go ahead and answer them at the very end as well. Alrighty, we have another Philadelphia as well. That's amazing. Okay, well, we'll give it another 2 minutes about. Again, newcomers, please let us know where you're from in the comments. Tell us what the weather is like. Tell us how your week has been. If you have done publishing in the past, if you have a published book and you want to go ahead and publish it as well, please pop that in too. And if you are speaking different languages, pop that in the comments as well. It's very, very interesting to know. I personally, I speak 3 languages fluently. Of course, English, German. I speak German fluently, and I also speak Afrikaans, which is one of the national languages of South Africa. Yeah, so we have some amazing bilingual people in the comment section as well. So yeah, it's very interesting to know that. Okay. So we have 1 more minute. I am actually being told that my dog is at the door wanting in. Give me 1 moment. I'll be right back. My apologies about that. Yeah, we can dive right in. So we can get started on our first slide, tell you a little bit more about me and the company itself, and yeah, we can dive in from there. Alrighty, so first of all, everybody, welcome to the webinar today. We'll be going over increasing your sales with translating your book. We're going to go through challenges, tips, and why you should translate your book. So yeah, if you have any comments or any questions, leave them in the comments and we'll go through that at the very end. Alrighty, so first off, we can go to the new slide. Hi, I'm Michaela. I am the senior sales agent here at the Urban Writers. I was a professional ghostwriter for 7 years, and I've written over 270 books currently for the Urban Writers specifically. On top of that, I've done other freelance work too, of course. I've also been at the Urban Writers for 4.5 years, going on 5 years very, very soon. I specialize in fiction and non-fiction books, and I have also translated English books into German as well. So yeah, that's a little bit more about me. On the next slide, you are going to learn a little bit more about the Urban Writers as a company. We were founded in 2018 by Marco and Natasha Moutinho. They basically started the company from scratch with a handful of writers, with external editors, and from there we have grown to have over 5,000 creative minds on the platform. We've written over 1 billion words as well, and we have over 20,000 satisfied customers on the platform. We will also be going and going through an evolution, basically, into. Oh, sorry, my bad. We will be going into Dibbly, which, if you haven't heard yet, we have Dibbly Create on the side. It's a fantastic writing and content creation tool. It's AI powered, you assisted basically. It's absolutely fantastic, and we will be going into that as well. So if you do see any branding changes, anything like that, it is because we are evolving more into the Dibbly side of things as well. So today, our agenda. We will start with why you should consider translating your book. We are going to go over why or what makes a good translation. We're going to go through tips and tricks and challenges that you might be facing. And then we'll also have a Q&A section at the very end, just after we go over what's coming next. So our next webinar announcement will be at the very end as well. So first of all, we can dive into why you should consider translation. So we can hop over to the next slide. And here you can see some stats on why you should consider translating your book. So currently in the US, all books that are published in the US, only 3% of those books are translated into other languages from English. In the UK and in Ireland, this stat, so this percentage, has gone up to 5.6% in the past, but currently it is still minute, and this is an untapped market that could be massive, and a lot of people don't really know about that. So this is definitely, with the percentage of books that are actually translated, there is a very, very high demand for it. So definitely keep that in mind. The global translation service market is valued at 405 million USD at the moment, and is estimated to reach 465 by 2028. This is if the percentage, of course, stays the same of translation to original content. So that is also something to keep in mind. Alrighty, so reasons why you should consider translation. First of all, dive into a new market. We can actually go to the previous slide. There we go. Okay, dive into a new market. So, as mentioned, there is a huge shortage of translated services or translated books. You can access brand new markets all over the world that you could not access previously. People who can only speak one language, people who are only fluent in Spanish that can't speak English, German, French, Mandarin. Those are markets that are completely untapped that you can get into if you do translate your content. It is yeah, it's just absolutely fantastic to go into it. I can't make my point enough. The next one is repurpose what you already have. So you don't have to create any new content. You can have what you have already written, just translate that and push that out there again. You do not have to create any new content. Everything can be repurposed. Yeah, it's literally just using the same content and just translating it. In general, translating your book is much cheaper than writing the book from scratch as well. So for half the price of what you would normally pay to have your book done, you can just translate that, reformat it, and then send it out to a completely new untapped market. We also have a new audience space, again, as mentioned, people from other countries who only speak one language that can't speak English. Those are people that you have not reached yet. There are millions and millions and millions of people that cannot speak English. So if your book is in English, you are not reaching that audience. And by translating, you will be able to reach them. Also, there is new audiobook potential. Audiobooks are absolutely fantastic to have for your book. And of course, once you have translated your book, you can easily have a narrator in that specific language narrate your book for you as well. So if you're doing fiction, even nonfiction as well, consider doing an audiobook for your translation as well. Again, that is an untapped market that you can take full advantage of. And then next we have an untapped market. This kind of goes with the rest of the points as well. There is, again, millions of people that cannot read English books. It is your marketing would need to change, of course, for specific countries, but you will most definitely see that if you are translating your book, you are going to reach other countries. You can see the stats of where your books are being shipped to, where your ebooks are being bought from. It is going to increase the range of people that you are reaching exponentially. Alrighty, our next slide, we'll be going over what makes a good translation. So, first of all, we need accuracy and faithfulness. This comes down to having a good translator. Now, if you do not speak the language that you are translating into, you do need an absolutely fantastic translator, and you need editors on top of that as well, at least one editor on top of that, to make sure that it is accurate to your book. So you need at least 2 pairs of eyes when this is being translated if you do not speak the language yourself. You want the book to be faithful to what you have written. You want the names to be the same. You want the story to stay the same as well. And of course, you want your tips and tricks if it's a book on yoga or a book on grow houseplants. You want that information to be the same. You want it to have the same kind of value. That being said, you do want to adapt it for each different culture. For example, for any cultural adaptation or contextual sensitivity, in certain countries, certain ways of saying something or certain ways of doing things might be frowned upon. One country might be a little bit more conservative than the other, than the country that you initially published in, and that does need to be taken into consideration as well. So keeping that adaptation but still staying true to the original content is very, very important. This brings us to linguistic fluency. So a great translation flows naturally, and it reads as if it were originally written in that language. It shouldn't sound like you actually went ahead and translated it. It needs to sound as if you have written it originally in that language. If you do not have the cultural adaptation or the faithfulness to the book itself, you are not going to see, it's not going to seem as if it is written in that language to begin with. It needs to seem like original content, even though it is not. Then we also want to check out professional editing and review. Now, just A minute ago, I did mention that you do want a good editor on this as well. You need an editor that can also speak both languages, of course, just like the translator, and they need to make sure that it is accurate, that the proper language is used, that again the linguistic fluency is there as well. So you do need at least two sets of eyes on this on the project. Even better if you can get another editor to come in. If you cannot get a service, for example, that does everything at once. So for example, the Urban Writers, we do have translation packages into Spanish, and we include an editor. So we have the writer and we have the editor included in that package that covers both. So if you don't have that, if you're doing it separately with separate people, do make sure to have multiple editors to go through that content. And then attention to detail. This again works with the linguistic fluency and the accuracy. With books, specifically fiction, there are minor, tiny details. If it's a series, there are tiny details that basically just they foreshadow things that might happen in further books in the series. Those details need to be captured as well. So it is very important for the translator to capture those details. If there are specific things that you might be worried about, mention that to your translator as well. Tell them, listen, on these pages, these are the certain things that happen that needs to stay. It can't be changed for, it can't be adapted in any way, because further down the line with the following books, this and this and this is going to happen. So we need that kind of context. So those little details need to stay. On the topic of details, this also does work with the cultural adaptation and contextual sensitivity. It's a very fine line to tread when you are adapting it. Okay, so you want to keep those details that are initially or originally in your content. You want to keep those details, but you also want to make sure that certain details are adapted in certain ways. Of course, those details can be adapted without without at any tongue twister without influencing the rest of the book, and without jeopardizing the content later on. So yeah, that is super important to keep that in mind and to chat with your translator for that. Okay. Next up, we have challenges and tips. Now you'll see there's a little bubble on your screen that gives you 5 languages. Those are the top 5 languages to translate into. Those are the most popular languages to translate into, and also basically the target audience that are most open to translations. So first of all, we have Mandarin, we have Spanish. So that would be European Spanish as well as North American Spanish. Oh, well, South American Spanish, my bad. Korean, French, and German. So those are the top 5 languages, not necessarily in that order. So it does change from time to time, but those are the languages that are usually in the top 5 languages to translate into. Now, your first challenge that you are going to face is adapting your cover, your book description, your marketing. Everything needs to be adapted for the other language. So, for example, you don't need a new cover, but you would have to translate the title of your book. That would need to change, of course. If it's a romance book and there's a shirtless man on the front, and you're sending this or you're translating it into a more conservative kind of language, then you might want to change the cover as well, but usually that isn't necessary. Any illustrations that have text in it, anything that basically shows English instead of the language that you are translating into, that needs to be changed. That goes for your description as well. You would need to rewrite your book description because there are going to be new keywords that you need to use. So if you're going into a new market, a new country, there are different keywords that you need to use in order to target those different people. This also does help the reader immerse themselves more into the book, again, because it's going to look like the book was written in that language before, before English, or it wasn't translated in any case. So definitely the immersion is very important, and that is how you're going to achieve that. The next challenge is language barriers. Now, this is when you do not speak the language that you are going to be translating into. You need multiple eyes on your content. If you have a friend that speaks Spanish, have them read it as well. Beta readers are absolutely fantastic for this too. So definitely do check that out and make sure that you aren't publishing something that you don't know the quality of. You need multiple people to go through this and to assure you that the quality is good. Because if the translation isn't bad, maybe the adaptation is completely different, maybe they're changing things in the book that they shouldn't. That is going to basically attach a negative view on your brand as a author. So do make sure that you know exactly what's being published and that you have multiple people to go through it. Again, beta readers are fantastic for this. Then a collaborative approach. With translations, it is very, very good. Well, with any creation, really, it is very good to be collaborative in the process, to chat with the translator to make sure that specific items are included in the book or specific topics. Again, using fiction as an example, if there are certain points in the book that have little Easter eggs for future books, that needs to be included, and you need to collaborate and communicate that with your translator in order to keep that in your book, to keep the integrity of the content. Next up, we have review and revise. That is, again, you need multiple people to go through this. Beta readers, have them give feedback to you. Of course, you don't have to have beta readers. That is just a very, it's a simple way to get feedback if you do not speak the language yourself. Of course, it is much easier if you speak the language yourself, but most people only speak one language, maybe two, maybe three. There are very few people that speak more than that. So if you are translating into 5 different languages, chances are you aren't going to speak them. So definitely get feedback from other people as well that speak those languages and that speak English as well, so that they can compare. And then you have to do the relevant marketing. As mentioned with the covers, your marketing strategy might change for the cultural elements of what you are going to be promoting, to the countries that you're going to be promoting, to the languages. That needs to be adapted as well. You need to update your keywords. You need to make sure that those specific people are targeted instead of the whole audience. People who are already reading your book in English might not be interested in reading it in Spanish as well, but if they are from Spain, for example, and they're reading it in English, your marketing should target that person. Again, because then they can purchase your book in Spanish as well. So those people that have already read your book, you need to make sure where they are from and then target that marketing as well. So we have a marketing webinar that you can check out. It's absolutely awesome. It doesn't target this specifically, but it is awesome if you're just getting started with marketing and wanting to know how everything works. Do go ahead and check that out. We won't go into too much marketing at the moment, but just know that you are going to have to adapt to the specific market. Okay. Next up, we have our next webinar. So our next webinar will be about illustrations. So adding illustrations to your book. Contrary to popular belief, illustrations can be added to non-fiction book, adult books, children's books, any kind of book that you are writing. Illustrations can be added to it. It is not limited only to children's books. So this webinar is going to go through reasons why and reasons why you can add illustrations to your different books, as well as why you should do that, because it just it makes the whole experience much more interesting if there are some illustrations in the books itself. So specifically for exercise books, tutorial kind of books, those sorts of things. So we're going to go through why you should consider it, what makes a good illustration for those specific things, and challenges and tips basically follow the same format as we have done with this one. Now, if you have any questions whatsoever, we're going to go to the Q&A section next. So please, if you have any questions whatsoever, please drop them in the comments. I'm going to go through them. I'm going to answer those questions. We do have some time to go through everything. So please let us know in the comments if you do have any questions. So what languages should I translate my book into? There are multiple like I showed earlier, the 5 different languages, the most popular languages that you can translate into, either Mandarin and Spanish, both kinds of Spanish, the European and the South American Spanish. It is amazing to go into those different things, into those languages. So check those ones out first. Also, do check what kind of content is in your book, and if that is relevant to those specific countries. For example, you might see that if your book is on ski slopes in Europe, your book will sell more in English and in German than it might in Spanish or in Mandarin. So keep the context and the content of your book in mind as well when you are deciding, what language to translate it into. Do you have to get a new cover design? No, you do not. You just have to adapt the text, as well as the book description on the back. You just need to adapt the text for it. If you do want to, if again, as I mentioned, if it's a more conservative country or a language that you are translating it into, you might want to adapt the illustration that's on your book as well. If it's something like romance, you might want to adapt that as well. But in general, you only have to adapt or just revise the actual wording. Do I have to rewrite my book description? Yes, you do. Again, you do need to adjust the keywords. You need to go in and target different markets and stuff. So it is essential that you do rewrite your book description. You can, of course, have it translated as well, but in general, good rule of thumb is just to have it rewritten in that language. Alrighty, and how do I decide which books to model? In general, if you are doing, modeling after other books as well, you might want to go into saying, okay, I know that I want to translate into German or Spanish or French, whatever language you want to translate into, and then decide or check out which books would be more important in that case. So see which languages you want to translate into first, maybe what's most popular, check out the books that are most popular in that language, and then move on from there. Do I have to translate before I publish? No, you do not. So with it's the same as audiobooks, you can do that at a later point. So you can publish your book in English first, and then you can go in and translate it and do your audiobook and maybe do different questions. That's basically how that would work. But you don't have to publish in both languages at the same time. Or first, you can publish in English first and then move on to the other languages. What is the most popular foreign language to translate a book into? That would be Mandarin or Spanish. Usually European Spanish, to be perfectly honest. We see with the translations that we do at the Open Writers, the overwhelming amount would be European Spanish. So a little tip for that. What's the approximate cost of a translation package? Okay, so our translation packages, we currently only have Spanish, but you can work with about. Let me get the rate quickly. We charge $2.89 per 100 words for translations. So it does depend on the size of your book. If you're doing 10,000 words, for example, it's going to be $289. So you can work with that with $2.89 per 100 words. Now, this does include the ebook formatting as well as the editing as well. So it's the writing, editing, and ebook formatting. Okay, and next up, how would one approach the marketing of a translated book when I don't know the language? For example, if the translated book is in Spanish but I don't speak it, are there resources for learning marketing in those languages? There are definitely resources that you can look into. There are companies that assist with this specifically. They assist you with specifically marketing into different languages. Blogs are fantastic as well. To read some blogs, check it out, write some blogs as well to support or to market your book for that as well. And then translating that. That is very good for marketing, just a little tip. But in general, there are blogs, there are resources, there are companies that specifically assist you with marketing into other languages that you do not understand. What about translating from other languages into English? That is definitely very, very advisable as well. If you just have a book in, say, Spanish, you want to translate that into English by default. English is universally known. It is, of course, the most popular language to write in and to publish in. So definitely go ahead and translate into English as well. Currently at the Urban Writers, we don't translate from other languages into English, but it is something we are looking at in the future. How do you find out what the demand is, especially for the genre you write in advance? So Amazon is fantastic to do this. There are filters on Amazon that you can put in the genre that you're looking for, the language, and then you can see the bestsellers from there as well. You can sort it by bestseller. So Amazon is great to get that information from. Of course, Google is your friend too, but Amazon is the easiest. Okay. We definitely something to also keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier when I introduced the company, I mentioned Dibbly Create. That is absolutely amazing for market research, and you can use that to say, okay, I want to just ask the AI assistant Kip. You can ask them your questions and he can give you some answers as well. So the little AI assistant, it's absolutely fantastic. It can assist you with all of those things. So definitely try that out. It can assist you with, if you aren't, for example, aren't native English speaking and you want to translate from Spanish to English or vice versa, you can use that as well to check for grammar, check for spelling if you are translating it. So it's absolutely fantastic. Definitely do check it out. We will be adding links to the comment section so that you can check that out. We are having a free trial at the moment, so it was like a 7-day trial that you can check it out and see what's going on. There is a free version as well, so you can see and view and go over everything. And if you have any questions, of course, you're welcome to reach out to us. Okay, if a story is set in a period whose now dead language was used, how do I translate it closely enough to the language? Are there resources for that? Okay, so with this, if you take Lord of the Rings, for example, the language, oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of the language, but that was specifically created by Tolkien, for example. Um, if you have stuff like Outlander, Old Gaelic, Scots Gaelic was used for that as well, which is almost basically dead at the moment. In cases like that, if the language is used inside of the book, you'd keep that language because it is set in that period. It might be translated later on. You can keep true to what you wrote in English, for example, and just keep that in the book and then translate all of the English text. Because if you're speaking, for example, if the book is in English and you have a different language, it is a different language anyway. I hope this makes sense. But yeah, usually you keep the language that's the alternative language that is in it, and then just translate the rest, just to stay true to the book and to the content that you've already written. Okay, would you please restate the costs? I also assume this is per language. Please confirm. Yes. So the cost that I did mention, that is $2.89 per 100 words. That is in USD. That is for Spanish. So that is from English into Spanish, and it is, of course, per language as well. Yeah, so you would have to pay for each language to be translated into that language, because you have to translate the entire thing again from English into that language, adjust your covers, etc., etc. Alrighty. Well, that does look like all of the questions that I can see on my end. If there are any questions that we did miss, we will go in and answer them afterwards. You're also more than welcome to reach out to us via sales at the Urban Writers. You can also give us a call. The number is on the screen at the moment. You can also find our contact details on www.theurbanwriters.com. Just head to the contact us page and you will see all of the contact details there. You can hop on a live chat with us, hop on an email, hop on a call, book a demo. We are always happy to chat. We're always happy to assist you. So yeah, just reach out to us if you have any further questions. Anything pops up still, you know where to find us. But yeah, have an absolutely wonderful day ahead, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope this helped you in your publishing journey. And yeah, the link to the video will also be available on social media. So keep an eye on that if you do want to rewatch at any point. Alrighty, well, have an absolutely awesome day, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.